Hey guys, and welcome to this lecture on precalculus. And today we'll be covering fractions. A lot of you will be pretty familiar with a lot of the topics that we're talking about in fractions. And let's just get started. So, what is a fraction? So, a fraction is something like 1 over 4. That's a fraction. So, what does 1 over 4 represent? 1 over 4 represents you have four things. Let's just say, let's use the classic example of a pizza. That is a weird pizza, but that's a pizza. And you want to cut into halves. You want to cut into four. So you have four pieces, four equal pieces. That's key. And so 1 over 4 is equivalent to one section of the four. 1 over 4s can also be written as a percent, which is 25%. Because what is 25%? 25% is the same thing as 125% over 100%, right? It's 25 over 100, which is a quarter. So in this case, this is actually called an equivalence. So 1/4 is actually the reduced version, of 25 over 100. So how do we reduce 25 over 100 into 1/4? Well, the trick is let's try starting with numbers. So we have to start dividing up each of these sides by the same number so that we can simplify it. So what do we know? If we divide this by 1, we actually just get the same thing, right? If we divide both sides by 1, so we get 25 over divided by 1, 100 divided by 1. What does this give you? This is just 25 over 100. Can we do 2 and make it a whole number? No, because you would get 12.5 over 50, which is not something we want. Can we do 3? Well, 25 divided by 3 is also not a whole number, and 100 is not divided by 3 is 33.3 onwards, and that's not a whole number either. So we could do 4. 25 divided by 4, also not a whole number, even though the 100 is. So what's 5? So that's a common factor between the two, is 5. So now we could do 25, divide that by 5, and you go 100 divided by 5. What does this give you? This gives you 5 over 25. Now we can see again, this actually can be divided by 5 again. So 5 divided by 5 and 25 divided by 5. Make sure you do both on the same thing. You got to do the same thing to both the numerator, which is the top, and the denominator, which is the bottom. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 25 divided by 5 is 4. So there we go. We have 1 over 4, which is equivalent. So let's move on into some of the other operations you can do. So let's start with addition, right? Let's start with addition. So let's think about a few examples here. So say you had two fractions. You have 7 over 8 plus 3 over 8. When you add this together, what are you doing, right? What are you actually doing? So let's think of it graphically. So we have a pizza and it's cut into 8 sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's bad, but whatever. Just imagine that's 8. So 7 over 8, if I change colors here, 7 over 8 would be all of this, right? That's 7 over 8. And then if we go back and draw another pizza, which is also 8. Wow, I'm just really bad at drawing pizzas. But here we go. And then we have 3 over 8. So when you add this together, what you're saying is, let's take all of those pieces and these pieces, and how many pieces do you have in total out of both pizzas now, right? That's simple. So here in this case, oh, my color is all messed, but in this case, all you have to do is take the numerator, which is the top, and add those together. And this you can only do when the denominator is the exact same. So when the denominator is the same, you can add them together. And it's best practice to simplify this. So we can't do 1, we'll try 2, becomes 5 over 4. There we go. And so that's the answer to that. Now let's try another one. So in this case, let's try something with two different denominators. 6 plus 4 over 9, let's say. So what do you do when you have two different denominators? This means you have a pizza that's divided into 6 and a pizza divided into 9. It's kind of hard to make sense of it. So what you're actually going to do is you're going to multiply the denominators by each other if they're different, right? All you have to do is multiply them by each other if they're different. So you would multiply 5 over 6 times, sorry, and you would do the numerator 5 times 9, and you would do the denominator 6 times 9, and then you have 4 times 6, and down here you have 9 times 6, right? So let's simplify this. And so 5 times 9 is 45, 6 times 9 is 54, and we add here, we have 4 times 6 is 24, and 9 times 6 is 54. So you see, when you multiply them against each other, they become the same denominator, which means we can apply the same principle we applied before this, which was you just add the numerators. So 45 plus 24 is 69 over 54, and we can make this a smaller fraction if we want to, but for time's sake, we're gonna leave it. But leave that as an exercise for you to do. So let's think of the third case. We'll do another one. So which is, let's say, a half plus 1 over 4, half plus 1 over 4. So what do you do in this case? You could multiply them against each other, but we can see that 2 is actually a factor of 4, right? 4 goes into 2. So if it is a factor of 4, and a factor is just anything where you can divide evenly and get a whole number, all right? 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. Then all you have to do is take the smaller side and multiply it by the bigger side to make the bigger side. So you just multiply it by 2. So your goal technically is to just make the denominator the same. Once you can make the denominator the same, you're good to go. So this becomes 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4, right? And then you just add the numerators, you get 3 over 4, which is technically you're taking half a pizza and a quarter of a pizza, and you get 3/4 of a pizza. Does that make sense? Let me draw it out. Let me make it. Oh, not. I got to work on this circle drawing. So we take pizza cut into 4 slices, and you're going to do half the pizza is going to be the first fraction. Let's represent that in yellow. Right? So let's say right there. And then the second half of the pizza, that is 1/4, so a quarter. And now you can see when you add them together, you get 3 out of the 4 quarters. So this is what I was saying earlier. All it is just you're taking physical representations and adding them together. So math is just a numerical way to represent what exists physically. So let's move on to the next thing. So now we have addition. Let's try subtraction. Let's just do the exact same ones that we've done before. Subtraction has the exact same rules as addition. So if you have 7 over 8 minus 3 over 8, if the denominators are the same, we can simply take away the numerators, right? You can make this simple, and that's just a half. And 2, let's just do one more, right? So you have 6 plus 4 over 9. You want to make the denominators equal. If you remember from above, it's just 45 over 54 plus 4 times 6, 24 over 54. And this was a minus, my bad. And so all you have to do is subtract this from this, and you get 45 minus 24 is 21 over 54. And simplify this as an example. So now let's move on. Subtraction is just the opposite of addition. So anything that you can do in the same order of addition, you can do with subtraction. So let's move on to the next one. So now let's get into multiplication. Multiplication is actually my favorite and easiest. So all you have to do is, say you had some fraction 5 over 10 times 6 over 3. All you do is you multiply the numerator and the denominators out. So 5 times 6 is 35, and 10 times 3 is 30. And you can simplify this yourself. This is pretty straightforward. It's 7 over 6 if you just divide it by 5, right? Um, yeah, so it's pretty cool. Another little handy shortcut with multiplication is, imagine you had something like this. You had 9 over 3 times 6 over 9. In this case, all you're doing is multiplying these two together. So this is the same as writing 9 by 6 over 3 by 9. If you have like terms, you can actually cross them out. If you have a like term multiplied in the numerator, you can cross this out and cross that out, and you get 6 over 3, which you can simplify to 2 because that's just 2 over 1. And as you can see, it actually is pretty easy when you see like terms like this, and eventually you'll pick up these patterns. So let's talk about division. So division is just multiplication, but with a small little twist. So let's take 10 over 20 times, sorry, not times, divided by a quarter. So when you see the division symbol, what you have to do is take one of the terms and take the reciprocal of it. A reciprocal just means, let me write that out for you. Reciprocal is just when you flip the terms. So when you flip the terms, you actually get 1 over 4. Sorry, not 1 over 4. My bad. Let me erase that right there. With the reciprocal, you're going to take this term and you're going to flip it. So it becomes 4 over 1. And then you do the same thing. You just multiply it out. So it becomes 40 over 20, which is just 2, right? And that's it. That's what division is. All you have to do, let's take another one. 5 over 4 divided by 12 over 6. And all you're going to do is take the reciprocal of the second term, so times 6 over 12, and you get 30 over 48. And if I was to simplify this in my head, this would be something like 15 over 24. And could you simplify this further? Yes, you can. You'd get 8 over 3. Sorry, 8 over 5. There we go. 8 over 5. That's it. That's all there is to all things you need to know about fractions. And it's pretty important that you learn this now because later we'll be going to a lot harder stuff. So, hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something new. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that jazz. And I'll see you guys in the next one.